Hi guys, welcome to another Patreon bonus. Of course, I've got my mic down here, podcast style. Today we're going to be talking about The Call, which is a 2020 South Korean film that people have been going nuts about. People have been talking about this non-stop. I know Girly Gore, she did a review, but I also got a recommendation from I think about 20 or 30 people to watch this film, and then people were talking about it on the Discord, which is tiers 2 and 3 on my Patreon. So I thought today we're going to sit down and do a spoiler, I was going to say spoiler free because I'm so used to saying that, but a spoiler chat about it, and I'll just give you my thoughts, and hopefully you can share yours in the comments down below. Again, this isn't going to be a spoiler. It's just too impossible to talk about this film without talking about the ins and outs because there's so much to it. It is 1 hour and 50 minutes of just pure chaos. There's so much back and forth, and the storyline changes and weaves so many times. I just think it deserves a spoiler chat. So if you haven't seen it, maybe just save this video until you finally get around to it. It is on Netflix, so if you have Netflix, definitely check this one out. And I'm gonna get on with it, so spoiler alert. So the film is directed by Hung Lee. I hope I'm saying that right. And he hasn't directed any other films before. He's just done a short. So this is quite surprising for the budget of the film. It's pretty high up there. And it all, just the way it comes together, it does not feel like a first-time director. The way it's woven is very clever, and I really appreciated that. If I was saying this is a spoiler-free blurb, I would probably describe this film as being about two women who mistakenly call each other, and realize that they are both living in the same house 20 years apart, and how their lives are entwined in ways they never could have imagined. That sounds pretty good. But in reality, the spoiler blurb is there's two women who are living 20 years apart, and when they realize that they can affect each other's timelines, things get dangerous. Very dangerous. So the film follows So Young, who is the protagonist, I would say, of the film, and Young Suk, who I would say is definitely the evil chick. You know she's evil. I mean, she's a complete psychopath, and we discover this quite fast. What I love about this film is it asks the question, what if this could happen? But then what if this happened instead? And then what if this? Like, that's what I love about this film. It doesn't just give us one idea and, then give us an arc from that. It just keeps asking, but then what if they could do this? And what if they could do that? And I love that idea of playing with, it's not really playing with time. Oh, I guess it is, but it's playing with timelines and alternate realities, and the way things can be constructed and deconstructed. And I really like that. It's like looking at time and how it can be altered. So as the film unravels, obviously we find out that they are living in the same house 20 years apart, and even further down the line we figure out that they've met. So the protagonist of this film, her father died when she was younger, and so as an experiment they try to see if they can alter the timeline. And when this kicks in and you realize how lucky she is that she has someone that can do this for her, and you see her, obviously when the whole graphics phenomenon happens, when like the time kind of just alters and like almost morphs and everything falls apart and comes back together on the other side. It's a really cool moment because you realize how sci-fi this film is and how fantasy it is, and that we're going to get a lot more than we bargained for, instead of just some creepy calls in a house, because a film called The Call you would think would be about that. But what I really like is when she is saying thank you so much for this, you're all taking it in jest. You're thinking, oh, this is such a great relationship these two women are gonna have, and you almost feel like one person is maybe gonna get, because it's a horror movie and obviously there has to be an arc, one person's gonna get in trouble and the other person's gonna have to figure out how to save them. But in fact, it's the complete other way around, where they end up having this battle. And I think it's really cool because you think, wow, that's really great that she was able to save the father. But what if she was actually a psychopath and you just gave her all of this information about your family and who you are, and this person who is alive 20 years ago can now alter everything in your life? It's it's really the power of the stranger. Like, you're giving everything to this person and not realizing that they could take advantage, or really who they are, and you have no idea of who they are. And on that, I think there's this whole fascinating aspect where this exorcism comes into play with the mother, and the mother, you know, abusing her daughter. There's that moment when she's on that chair. I was very curious what was happening, if she was having a seizure or what was going on, because there's definitely signs of possession within her. And I'm not just talking about the seizure, I'm talking about like the marks and stuff. Obviously the mother can create that, but she just doesn't seem she's not a nice chick. And usually when you see these kind of films where, I know I'm putting it very simple, she's not a nice chick, she deserves an exorcism. But you know, in these films, it's normally the person who is battling something. Like, I think about films like The Last Exorcism, someone who is battling something that could be the reason why people think they need to be exorcised, or I don't know if that's the right term, or anything like that. But in this one, she is still bad, and you never really know if she is demonic. I know it sounds silly because there's so many other things that come into play, like time travel's going on. Do we really have to be talking about demons? It's the weirdest crossover of all time. But I did think that aspect was a little bit strange, that it was kind of touched on and left. And, you know, she does talk about how she was in the mental facility, and threatens to take her back. So there's this whole like other part about her that you don't really know. And all you know is she's evil. And I think it's also... some people, I don't really believe this, but I think obviously in some films this is accurate, but people could be assuming, because that story isn't tied up and explained, that it could be a bad look for people who deal with mental illness. Obviously, we're talking about the extreme end of the scale, because she is demonized literally and never really explained. She just like goes around and cuts up people's bodies. So very odd there. So as the film goes on and progresses, obviously this story just unravels so far, and it's just like an onion. There's so many different layers. It starts with being about altering time, then it moves into this kind of battle between them, and then obviously her being able to like see her in the past and all that kind of stuff. A question I did have during all of this is, it feels like almost in my brain, I don't want to mention the film, but there's a couple of films that talk about time travel or traveling to altered states. I mean, altered states is probably the perfect example, and how that can impact on the body and the mind. And I feel like with this, there's so many things that keep changing through their altered timelines that it doesn't really make much sense that they don't remember anything that's happening or has happened in their past when they've gone to their new state. If she's getting, you know, long hair and she looks different, her whole house looks different, everything she owns is different, her father is alive, how come she still has the memories of what has just happened? That is something I kind of struggle with. Like, is your brain just staying the same while everything else is changing, including your hair? So that was a little bit confusing, especially when she's driving in the car. Like, how would she have even got in the car if her father didn't exist up until that point? It's hard. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like that's the whole time travel like paradox. There's so many different ways to look at it and how it can intertwine and you know, alter realities and all that kind of stuff. There's several different ways of looking at time travel, and I feel like that just messed with me a little bit. I feel like I'm being nitpicky, but it was hard to imagine that you know, like the very end of the film, when you find out that the mother protected her, that she wouldn't have remembered that if that was what she was doing her whole life. I don't know, up until that point. It's like she's moving through the timelines. Maybe there's like all these different alternate reality and she's moving to the different realities. But why would just her be impacted by what someone else did in the past? Why do they really control each other, like the two different people? Speaking about the graphics, I did think that the graphics in this film were done superbly. Whatever they did with the computer generated, the morphing, the way they had like the cameras kind of, especially in that car scene, like come outside, and like it was amazing. It was like this 3D experience watching it just on my TV upstairs at home. It was amazing, and I really think that it was just done really well, and I can't believe it worked and wasn't cheesy. It just felt really immersive and interesting and just not what I was expecting for a movie called The Call, to be honest. Someone did comment on one of my videos saying that this movie was about altering time between two timelines 20 years apart. So I was a little bit bummed because I felt like that gave away a big part. You know, when she's getting the calls at the start, you think it's a creepy call coming from inside the house. So I was kind of bummed because I felt like that I already knew and I was waiting for it to catch up. But there's just so much in this film that I really don't think it can be ruined unless you just tell someone the ending. But I don't really feel like the ending was a big deal in comparison to the journey it took to get there. She could have lived or died. I just think it was the journey that was so interesting. Another thing I do want to mention is the call. The phone calls they make sound exactly like my intercom to my front door. The whole time I kept pausing the TV thinking that someone was trying to get into my house. I think that's kind of summing up my initial thoughts on the film. Overall, I thought it was a really touching story. Though it was really well written, and I mean, I picked apart some stuff in my head only because I was so interested in it. I don't think that they're plot holes. I was just so fascinated with the way they played with time. I would have liked to know a little bit more, obviously, about the antagonist, because I don't think everything's so black and white. Like, she's just not this evil chick because of what her mum did. Like, there must be so much more to the story and to her history. I'm not sure if I just didn't get that, but I felt like there was more there. There's a sequel there. But yeah, I felt like it was a very touching story, and I think that the writing was really well done. It reminded me of two other films. One, I can't remember the name, but I'll put it here. It's a Blumhouse film that I watched recently when I did all the Blumhouse movies, and another one which is The House at the End of Time, I believe it's called. Don't look into it, just watch it. It's an amazing, amazing film. It really reminded me of that. Obviously, there's so much more in this story that is different, so I would really recommend checking. They're very different, but it plays with time in a similar idea, but very different at the same time. Anyway, I would love to know what your thoughts are on The Call. Please let me know down below. What did you think and what score did you give it? I actually gave it a 3.5, which is a 7 out of 10, which is a pretty good score from me. I thought it was good, but I just had so many people going on and on and on about it. And I've seen so many other South Korean films this year that I kind of spoke to me a little bit more in an emotional way. I know this one is emotional, but in a more relatable way, I guess. Anyway, I hope you're having a great day. Thank you again for supporting me and my Patreon. It's really important to me, so I very much appreciate all of your help. It really does help and go a long way with my channel. And I'll talk to you very soon next week for another bonus video. Stay spooky, guys. Bye.